Hello, cousins, and welcome to another Shatsong LARP Diaries episode. Today, looking at the Apothecary skills within Menhirs Fate. Out the gate, I think this is possibly the worst part of their rules system, namely because I don't understand it, and again because I'm biased, lazy, and not keen to spend time understanding things, and I am utterly hooked on the way that education and social media has been drip fed to me that if I can't understand it in 3 seconds, it's not worth understanding. However, that aside, and sarcasm aside, I don't think it's bad. As we go through it, I think we'll get it. But this is like the magic rules with Empire rituals and how different it's your mastery of a spell versus your level versus the size of your coven. That can sometimes get a bit tricky. I think this is the same. And there's some complexity here with some tables, and it does allow you to fundamentally make custom potions. They're not predefined. You just choose the elements going in, and then you fuel them, which is really cool. I like the intent here. The commander's intent makes sense, but the execution of this operation is questionable, and I wouldn't be surprised if they perhaps revisit this at some point in the future, because if it's difficult for players to understand, then I'm sure refs who are not going to be specialist potion makers, it's going to be even harder for them to understand it and process it and create these things as well. So with all of that said, let's dive into Apothecary. So first things first, this is a 3 XP skill, so you can still have Apothecary and Healer and Surgeon as part of your character. It's not super expensive skill wise. This allows you to make use of the Apothecary skill itself and create potions that have magical effects. When you select the Apothecary skill, you are able to pick 3 effects from the Apothecary table below that we'll be covering, and you have to select a base item to enchant as one of these picks, or you will not be able to make anything. More on that later. We won't hop around in this article. Next up, you've got Apothecary Mastery, which is 1 extra XP. Apothecary Mastery gives you another pick from the Apothecary table. Cool. Alright, nothing surprising there. So what is Apothecary? Apothecary is the skill of creating magical potions and poisons by combining abilities and resources. Each ability or effect has a base cost, and adding additional abilities increases that cost. These creations are tied to specific elemental spheres, which affect the final resource cost as well. So what do I need to brew a potion or poison? The brewing of potions and poisons requires flicker. So flicker is an in-game resource, and the type of flicker needed will depend on the consumable you wish to create, and you may need several different types of flicker in order to create your potion. Depending on the potion or poison, the amount of flicker needed will also vary. So more powerful health potions will need more flicker, and less powerful ones, less flicker. All good so far. Flicker is an ingredient that can be found via several sources in-game. It can be supplied through your base character skills, but there are also many other ways of finding it. Oh, excuse me, gosh, that's rude. Many other ways of finding it in-game. So, how do I brew a potion or a poison? To make a potion or a poison in Menhirs Fate, there are a few simple steps to follow. Pick your base abilities, which is part 1. So after buying the Apothecary skill, you choose 3 base abilities. These initial picks will dictate the type of potion or poison you can create. You can add more base abilities, as we talked about with the Apothecary Master skill, that cost 1 XP each. Part 2, brewing. Create a fizz rep, so you get a little bottle, whatever, up to you. You all know the score, dear listeners. You get this fizz rep for the potion or poison, with an in-character explanation of what it is, and an out-of-character note for the mechanics on the back. So you're actually making your own game cards. So I think having little handwritten notes and on the sort of brown paper with a piece of string wrapped around the top of the bottle itself, that would look quite cute, I believe. Handwriting aside, of course. Part 2 is, so brewing, you get the fizz rep yourself, get the notes ready. You then visit an apothecary station and perform the required roleplay. Please make sure you have the required flicker in advance of this, as you will need to hand it to the referee looking after this station. So I talked about admin before that, and sure, they might have resident specialists for this, but still, I'm sure players will have more time to dedicate to breaking this system than the refs. Next up is you're going to roleplay, and that will take up to 5 minutes, actually in front of the referee at the poison/potion station. And then a referee will check your creation and approve it, so you'll hand over your flicker resources at that point. And once approved, they'll provide a sticker for your potion to represent the number of doses and stamp the mechanics description. So you kind of front load all the admin for them, and they check it, which is... I still think having like player customized potions is a very much a nice system, especially for a smaller ARP. But with potentially 2,000 people at the first event, yikes. That said, I think this is the best way they could approach it, by getting players to do all the heavy lifting and the writing and the phys reps, and they're basically there going, yep, here's our seal of approval, this is official, off you go. I think this is maybe the best of a bad scenario. Once they've done that, they'll stamp it and stamp the mechanics description. Cool, great. So, important point, you remove one sticker each time it's used. Once the stickers are gone, the potion/poison is used up. Again, we can never stop people from cheating, right? If they want to cheat, they can always cheat. But for something like stickers, unless they're going to be specific stickers from Menhirs Fate, like branded ones, you could just get a bottle, put some stickers on it and say, yeah, this is approved, not pay any flicker for it, and write your own mechanical effects and say, oh, this is a special one because I've been involved in plot, or something like that. I'm not saying that every player will do that, but those kind of players definitely exist. So I think this mechanic with the stickers is open for abuse. That said, I think it's quite nice for simplicity. Number of stickers left in it, 3, 2, 1, empty. That's cool. That's better than having to measure out 2.8 milliliters of water for a standardized bottle size. So, again, best case scenario for a bad mechanic. Final interesting point, which I like, is that the potion lasts for 2 years or until it is run out of doses. Now, this feels for me like they're going to put some unique potions in, and they want them to eventually disappear. And you see this sometimes with unique potions at Empire or unique items, where they will remain in play, or maybe arcane projections, for example. They remain in play long after they were intended to be used. And I think we saw this a couple of years ago at Empire with something like a crow-based army ability. It was used once, it was allowed to happen, and then PD put out a statement saying, this was never meant to last this long, and it's not going to be happening again. Please don't try it. Which is cool. It's nice for them to be clear, and the fact we've got 2-year limits in this, I think, is a big tick. Cool mechanic, and make sure anything they make that they want to, they want to forget about more than anything. There is a timeline for that to be used. Cool. So, overall, I'm going to call this 2.5 stars out of 5. I think it's open to abuse, and I know not many people will do it, but you only need one person to do it around you to ruin your game when they walk in with a 15 stickered potion of Giga healing. That's going to suck. And I think the stickers, they're going to flake off. Are there going to be enough stickers at the apothecary station? That kind of stuff. So, again, we'll see. But the big question here, how does it work? How do we actually brew something? So what you can brew is dictated by the base abilities you've chosen in Apothecary and further abilities you've added along the way. At least one of these picks must be your base, so it must be a consumable or a blade oil as an examples here, and this dictates the type of creation you can brew. You can have multiple types of base creations, meaning you can brew any creation of that type. So for example, Jess Bobbins has one base creation, consumable. They can now create consumables. How do you brew them? The other abilities and skills you take in Apothecary determine what magical effects you can brew into your creations. So Jess Bobbins has chosen Consumable, Heal Wounds, and Fuel Focus. This means that they can now do any of the following. Create a consumable that gives the drinker the use of Heal Wounds. Only usable if they have Focus, because that's part of Heal Wounds rather than this. This is basically a spell / ability fueled by a potion rather than XP. And then part 2, create a consumable that when consumed will heal the consumer as though they have had the Heal Wounds spell cast on them. And now the difference here is that number 1 there is just Heal Wounds, and it relies on the player that you're giving the potion to having Focus. However, if you put Heal Wounds plus Fuel Focus, it kind of comes with the Focus pre-built in. It's like a spell coming with mana built in for you. So you just drop it and off it goes. It's kind of like reading a scroll, I think. You see in a lot of games you get a scroll of a spell and you just read it out loud and bang, it happens. Kind of like that, but you don't need to expend any mana for doing so. Okay. So excuse me everybody, I'm yawning like a sleeping policeman tonight. Right. What it costs. The amount and type of flicker needed to create a potion is determined first by the base costs that can be found in the Apothecary chart below. More on that later. Start by simply adding up these base costs. So Jess Bobbins decides to make a healing consumable, and so creates a consumable that has both Heal Wounds and 1 focus point built in. So the base cost of consumable is 1 water. For focus, so 1 focus, is 1 spirit. And Heal Wounds requires another 3 water flicker. So 1 water at base, because it's a consumable, plus another 3 water to get a healing effect, and then plus a spirit to preload it with some focus. The glue. All potions require glue to hold the magic together. Each time you add a skill or ability, you have to spend an extra spirit flicker to hold it all together. So, in our previous example there, where you've got a base consumable of 1 water and 3 water to heal wounds, that would just be 4 water, and you've only added 1 thing just to heal wounds. So there's no additional one, so you don't need to involve any spirit flicker. But now if we want to include focus in there, that focus itself costs 1 spirit. But then because we've added that focus, by dint of just adding anything to it, it's going to cost an additional spirit flicker. So overall, it will cost 4 water and 2 spirit. I'm confusing myself talking out loud. I get it, I understand it, but this is not like a concise way to explain it. The alignment. So on top of the glue and the components itself, all items, skills and abilities in the game have an alignment. This alignment determines what type of flicker you will need. Jesus Christ. It also defines how easy it is to put certain abilities on certain items. So if the ability or skill alignment doesn't match the base item alignment, you will need to add yet another spirit flicker each time to make them fit together. So alignment is just basically glue part 2. Okay, so here's an example. Jess Bobbins' base item is a consumable which is aligned to water. As focus is aligned to spirit and heal wounds is aligned to water, you need to add a further 1 spirit essence to make it all work. So the alignment defines what type of flicker you need. Cool. Okay, so because consumable base is water, whenever we're adding water-based abilities, there's no additional penalty for doing so. But there is because you're adding a skill or ability. So if I put heal wounds plus heal wounds plus heal wounds, then that's going to be 3 bits of glue to put it together. So that's 3 spirit. You've got no other alignments in there, so I don't take an alignment penalty. And then 3 heal wounds times 3. Then each of those having 3 water flicker is 9, plus 1 more water flicker for the base cost of the consumable. That will cost 10 water flicker overall. Plus, because I've added 2 additional skills to it, so heal wounds the second and third time, I'll have to spend 2 spirit on it. So it'll be 10 water, 2 spirit. Okay, I think I'm getting it. but yeah, late at night, dark in the field. Yeah, this is gonna run into some problems. All right. Anyway, let's be positive. So Jess's total flicker cost for her example above is 4 spirit flicker and 4 water flicker, because she's got a consumable aligned to water, focus included in it, which is aligned to spirit, and heal wounds is aligned to water. So the heal wounds is 3, plus 1 base gives us the 4 water, which is correct. And then we have focus itself, which is 1 spirit, the glue, which is another spirit for 2, and then it's a different spirit for 3. So why isn't... So it says 4 spirit flicker. Where's the 4th one coming from? Because there's a difference. So yeah, we need our glue. So focus itself 1 spirit. Glue, because it's an additional 1, 2. Alignment 3. Cool. I don't understand the example on the wiki, clearly. If you do understand it, please message me and explain it in pictures. I don't know where that 4th one is coming from. Great. Alright then, so alignment by colour. So fire is red, air is yellow, water is blue, earth is green, and spirit is purple. Now, if you go on the wiki, dear listeners, and scroll sort of halfway down, maybe 2/3 of the way down the page, you will see the list. And having now read this carefully, this isn't as bad as it looks, but it still looks pretty bad. So your base items, there's only 2 types in the game so far. A consumable, which is the example we've dealt with already, and a blade oil. Consumables are water-based, blade oils are fire-based. You can then load in any type of call or skill proficiency. So, or roleplay effect, or a fuel. So, if I wanted to give someone a rend call, it's 4R, so that's 4 reds. That's 4 fire flicker. So the base cost for my blade oil is going to be 1 red. Getting rend is another 4, so that's 5 total. And then you need some glue. Or do you even need glue, because it's just 1? Nope, you add a skill or ability, you add 1 extra flicker. Ah, I get it. Yes, sorry, you do need 1 flicker. Sorry. So we've worked out where the 4th spirit flicker comes from. Because each time you add a skill or ability, just to a base potion, even your first one, you still need to pay for the glue. So, with our example earlier of Jess Bobbins, base being a consumable, which is aligned to water, add some focus, because it's aligned to spirit, and heal wounds is aligned to water. It will be base consumable as 1 water, heal wounds is another 3 for our total of 4. And then because we've added heal wounds and +1 focus, that's at least 2 spirit. Sorry, that is 2 spirit. And then, because we need to glue it, because of the alignment, we need to put another spirit in there for 3. And then because the focus itself costs spirit, we're now up to 4. Okay, cool, I'm getting it. So, for our blade oil example with rend, we need 5 fire and 1 spirit. And the spirit glues it together, and there's no alignment issues, and you pay everything else in fire. However, a person using that rend call is going to need a way to fuel it. So I think it's like vigor or focus or however that'll be done. We'll read into that later. But let's say if I did want to add in some vigor, that a base is going to cost me a spirit. It's going to cost me another spirit because I'm adding another ability to our blade oil. And then because the alignments are different, it's another spirit, so that's going to be 3. Cool. For a total of 4. Yeah, how that works out. Okay, you know what? For my comment at the start, I might backpedal a bit. I think this is gonna... Someone is going to build an app for this, and it's going to be fucking great. And until then, it's going to be lots of confusing people writing these things down and getting the maths wrong. We'll have to see. But to cover things like calls, you've got Stagger, Disarm, Taunt, Petrify, Stun, Crush, Shielding, Elemental Strike, Counterspell, Poison, and Antidote. For skill proficiencies, you've got focus +1, regeneration, I've seen worse, range proficiency, throwing weapons, ambidextrous, light, medium, and heavy armor, so you can learn how to use them. And the roleplay effects, light, medium, and heavy, and fixation. Talk about those a bit more later. But fundamentally, every single rule in the game you can access via a potion if you've got the money, I guess. We're not sure what currency is like at the moment, but if you've got the ability to access this kind of flicker, let's say flicker is money, because that's the only thing I've seen in any kind of volume so far. If you've got the flicker, you can get the skill, and you don't need to spend XP on it. So that's pretty cool. And then below that table is... There are more base items. Okay, hang on. Is this a... No, it's not interactive. Okay, so base item wise, on the chart it lists consumable and blade oil, but it also talks about... No, it doesn't. Ignore me. No, just there's only two types in the game at the moment: consumable and blade item. So, or blade oil. They seem to be the same thing. So, if you spend 3 XP on Apothecary, and then spend another one on Master Apothecary for 4 XP total, it means you can make every single type of consumable and blade oil in the game, as long as you have the flicker to pay for it. Cool. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Right. A note on fuel. Fuel in Apothecary refers to the pools of strength that fuel the effects you're giving to someone via the potion. Calls that can be produced by Vigor require either your personal pool of Vigor to power them, or at least one inside the potion. Makes sense. And then the same thing with Focus. It needs to come from your personal pool, or it comes from the potion itself. So Focus is for spells, and Vigor is for like combat abilities. Alright. So, for roleplay effects. For additional essence costs, you may add roleplay effects onto your items. These effects will last for the duration of the item, and always be in effect on the character when holding this item. You may add roleplay effects to your potion and poisons, and light roleplay effects are free. Moderate or heavy roleplay effects may be added by spending additional flicker. And I like this. This gets a tick from me. Duration. So light roleplay lasts 30 seconds. So if you want your potion to give you a brief sense of euphoria, you're making just casual drugs in a drug den, right? Or an opium den or something like that. Brief little highs, absolutely free. But if you want something like a medium effect, that lasts for 30 minutes. That's when you start paying an additional flicker for it, because you're impacting someone's events at that point. 30 minutes under a different effect. I think having a resource penalty for that is pretty cool. And then a heavy effect lasts for 3 hours. So what you could do is give someone you've created a potion of weakness, and it just removes their ability to use vigor, or it gives them -10 vigor for 3 hours. That's a pretty devastating poison. But to get that 3-hour effect, it's going to cost you additional flicker. That's really cool. I really, really like that. So, like with writing down the actual effects, you also get to write down your role-playing effects as well. So you may choose add roleplay effects or other to your creations. While we do not wish roleplay effects to dictate to characters what they are thinking or feeling, we instead encourage you to That's a difficult sentence. We instead encourage you to describe the physical or environmental effects of the creation on the target, so it may allow them to interpret and act accordingly as their character sees fit. For example, your creation, rather than stating the target is frightened, might instead describe that the character's heart is racing and they feel a pit in their stomach, or that every loud noise or sudden move is a shock to the senses. Other roleplay effects may include direct instructions. For example, you wish to seek out adventure, or sensory-specific effects like all colours seem brighter, or all sounds seem muffled. They may even include perceived environmental factors such as the air feels thin to you, or the ground is moving. Okay. Again, this gives another tick. We'll see how. I think this is wide open to abuse. But before, when you've got things like stickers that players can abuse, if someone just keeps healing themselves because they want to win a game of LARP, sure, go off and do it. Who cares? But with writing these roleplay effects, I'm sure occasionally there'll be people who write some pretty devastating ones for their enemies and give them the potions, and it's like, well, actually, blah 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 happens, and now basically your character's dead or can't do anything for a while. Haha, I win. But I think the positive side of this is a lot of people are going to make feel-good potions, and there's going to be some really cool roleplay from this. Like on the battlefield, you get this potion, you read it, and you're like, you genuinely believe that we're about to win. So something like that. And then being able to roleplay that around your mates, and they've got no idea what's going on, they think you're just genuinely ready to win this fight by yourself. I think those kind of interactions are going to be awesome. They have, on that note, they have got some additional notes here on consent and collaboration. So heavy roleplay effects in particular should be discussed between players and Menhirs Fate staff to ensure that they fit with ongoing narratives and are enjoyable for everyone involved. Great. So even when creating these, they're going to get stamped. So in theory, as long as the player isn't cheating, the ref is going to get a oversight on the actual effects being written down. They will not approve any roleplay effects that they feel do not meet their standards for safety or code of conduct. Some effects, such as love potions, are not allowed and must reflect the game's community standards. Your enchantment and apothecary refs will not allow these effects to work. For this reason, please check with them before creating any roleplay effects. Final point, hidden effects. The apothecary may choose to hide the effects behind a flap on the fizz rep. They can be closed and only opened upon drinking or by being observed by an apothecary. So, like with the healing skills we saw, you can sort of stealth kill people. You can make potions and have some horrible things hidden behind that. So, and is that hide the effects? So this is hiding the role-playing effect. So only once you drink it, you know what's going to happen. And I guess for more open ones, you can kind of recognize it as this is a tincture of rending because it's got red flecks in it and a light peachy scent, for example. But if you've made some dastardly poison that is like petrified, disarm, and, shatter left knee or something like that, then you can hide how it looks and maybe describe it in a nice way. Like, this pleasant smelling minty mixture is succulent and delicate on the tongue. And when you open the role-playing effect, all of your limbs have now melted. Something like that. Again, really cool, and I really like that mechanic. So overall, that's potions. Very much something to go and have a look at the table yourself. I give a solid thumbs up to custom roleplay effects that get approved and filtered right. I think that's cool. Thumbs up for getting players to pre-do the admin as much as possible. Thumbs down for the amount of admin. Inherently necessary because you're allowed to make up your own potion combos. I'm on the fence here, but I think that's going to be very labour intensive, so I guess a thumb down. But then an additional thumbs up for light, medium, and heavy roleplay effects. I really like that. It doesn't say how much each one will cost. Nope, it doesn't. I think that's something the ref decides with you. I think those are going to be very interesting and give a poisoner a really good set of mechanics. Oh, sorry, maybe not good, but a really flexible set of mechanics in which to track down their foe. And there might be multi-stage poisonings. The first is you slip it in their drink and they get more rowdy and they start to, take risks that you wouldn't ordinarily take, or talk to people you don't know. And then in the second drink is you start to adventure away from your camp because you don't like, or you do want change, and you can't stand being near your bed because you're not tired, that kind of thing. And then the third part is you feel compelled to listen to whatever instructions you receive, and at that point you're told, hey, let's just go into the woods. Knife comes out, person's murdered, and job's good. Because when you look at conventional poisons and they go, fine, they're fine, gut spewing everywhere, it's obvious they've been poisoned. Or if they're under like a mind control spell, it's obvious from the swift and dramatic change in behaviour that they're under the influence of something else because it's out of character. But with this kind of flexibility, you could be really intelligent with how you target people, and even pushing these into if there's the equivalent of senators or generals, for example, you can make people easier to influence from these custom roleplay effects. So I'm a big fan of the RP behind this and what could potentially come out. I'm not a fan of the mechanics and the abusability of it, but overall, in a roleplay based game, I think overall this is a win. So 3.5 stars, thumbs up from me. So that's Apothecary. I think possibly the most complicated rule I've seen so far, but on reading it I feel less scared. Hopefully you feel the same. And again, if you don't, or if I've got something wrong, tell me. And do it in the most abusive way possible, if you feel like it. But until next time, thank you very much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.